Hello and welcome to Stylish Chats with Creatives. Today on the podcast, I'm speaking to Rob Oades. Hello, mate.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, cooling down. And yeah, living the dream.
Cool, good. Yeah, here you're in aircon, so even better.
Yeah, better than the UK. There is some advantages to being in the US, not many, but some.
So you are a photographer based in Austin in Texas now.
Correct.
Got that right?
Yeah.
And you're originally from Yorkshire
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Proud. Yeah.
And you just told me off air as well that you moved to London. So have you... Who's this boxer that's just come to say hi?
This is my lady. This is Rube, Rue for short, and she is definitely my girl. Needs all the attention.
Oh, she's so cute.
She is.
Oh my God, she's so cute.
She's hot right now. Right, I'm on the phone, but I know. Get down.
She just wanted to come and say hi. They know all the dog people. They know.
Right. Get down. Go on, get down.
They're so funny. I've had to leave mine downstairs because otherwise she'd just be the same. And it'd just be like that breathing.
And she sits on my side, literally by my feet. And she's like, "You've left? Where have you gone?" Anyway, sorry about that.
That's all right. It's the cutest interruption, so I'm fine with it. So you moved to London when you were young, right?
Yeah, 9 years old, 99. So that gives my age away. I'm 33 next week. I moved when I was 9. My dad worked for BP at the time, and they had a big plant in Hull, and then they had one in Surrey, just outside London, and that's why we moved there.
Ah, is that where you then started your creative journey? Do you remember the first time you picked up a camera, or where it first kind of came from?
I did I actually kind of went into it at university when I studied it, and I always had, my great granddad had Cine 8 film, and always kind of just videoed when they were around. And we're obviously being in Yorkshire, everyone's a lot tighter knit and stuff like that. And so I'd always spent a lot of time at my great grandparents or my grandparents. And so I always remember just having kind of my granddad videotaping just normal life events, nothing special, but just us playing in the yard and stuff like that. And my dad always had cameras, and my mum was creative, but I didn't really realize how much of an impact that had until I visited that as a thing from studying it later on in life. And I was definitely more of that creative side of stuff. I'm massively dyslexic when it comes to things like that. And I think that's just inherent and dividing a lot of people being creative or not, and where your strengths lie visually. And so I don't really remember that kind of eureka moment when it comes to kind of finding that creative streak, but definitely being surrounded by it at home was definitely a big thing.
Yeah, I remember all the my mum and dad would film on their JVC little video camera and stuff, just random shit, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, and I inherited all his stuff, and I'm Cine 8 slicers, the Cine 8 cameras, projector screens, but then I also inherited all the footage. And so I have just reels and reels of footage, which I then used again later on for other projects, which is really cool. But it was just crazy because I had boxes. I've had boxes all the time. And seeing my family dog when I was a kid, in Cine 8 film and stuff, it was just really, really strange. And I didn't actually realize it was so part of our lives. I didn't actually realize how much footage was always filmed, because I have boxes of the stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. What a great way to relive some memories, and also the little things that just pass you by when you're a kid. Probably what your great granddad was taking videos of, Yeah,
exactly that.
Oh man. So you mentioned you went to uni. Where did you go to uni, and what did you study?
So I went to Falmouth University, Cornwall, and I studied for the photography. They had 3 courses at the time. Maybe 2. No, 3. They had photography, BA, press, and then the natural history and marine photography. But I did the straight kind of photography course.
Yeah. How did you find it?
I I think it's one of those things like everybody loves, like, well, most people love university, and I absolutely love the location. I love not being part of the London crowd, like everyone expects you to go to and do kind of London fashion school and all that kind of stuff. I surf, I like the outdoors. It was perfect kind of environment for me to go to. And I think also adds just a different perspective to photography rather than going to the standard kind of London or the Bournemouth and kind of Brighton universities. I think it's got a slightly different vibe and reputation. I quickly learned that not being particularly the best academic in the world, like I could have passed my photography course with never taking a photograph. Like it was that kind of BA, you could really go into it in the theory side of stuff. And I mean, there were some people trying to take the worst photograph and working on negatives and stuff like that. And that's just not me. And so I did the bare minimum when it came to theory. And really, I mean, Falmouth had got the most incredible facilities when it comes to equipment you get to use, like full-base studios, always rentable, everything from kind of normal 35mm all the way through to kind of Hasselblad H systems. And all the photography lights that you want to do. So I was like, I'm never going to get to use all this equipment continuously for the rest of my life. I was like, I'm going to leave university with the best portfolio I possibly can, and come out with something that I want and that I'd be proud of. I got a third, like I passed, totally cool with that. But I'm pretty 100% confident to say that there's maybe 2% of our class, maybe less than that are still photographers, like in doing it. And I'm kind of really proud of that, having that kind of with what I work with now and kind of what I came out with and things like that. I'm glad I took the route that I did. Like I definitely prioritized the visual side of stuff and bits and pieces like that. I loved university life, like, and I still have lifelong friends and stuff there. But I'd say for me, the course theory wise wasn't something that I was particularly interested in. But definitely using the facilities and the people there as well. Like we had some great lecturers come in and that led to different contacts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. A lot of people have found the theory side of, who I've spoken to, the theory side of uni not as good, but then the facilities seem to be really good. So I think in a way you've probably did the right thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think I could have been in the exact same spot as I am right now without going there, but just being able to, I think just people skills, all that kind of stuff, socializing, and being able to work with people. And I still work and collaborate with people from university still now, in different areas like graphics or if it's kind of video, things like that. And so there's still all those contacts and stuff you make. So I think it's super valuable in other things. I just don't think the value is in the actual degree that I got.
Yeah, I think you've worded that really well, because I think there is people who go like, oh, what did I spend all that money on? When actually like you've kind of got to take the best bits from it. I mean, I never went, but from what I've heard of other people, you've got to take all the best bits from it and, you know, use it for all the benefits it can give you.
Yeah, I think the value in it is just if you're worried about the grade, then that's cool. And that's if you're proud of that first you got for the value of money that you got. But for me, I mean, in my CV, my degree is on the very, very bottom. It's the last thing that's actually worth any information. Like, if you want to know I went to school, here's how I went to school, but here's all the actual stuff that matters above that.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend actually the other day. They said to me, we were talking about CVs and portfolios and stuff. And I was like, I don't think I've written a CV in a decade.
I think I probably just adapted the same one since I was about 13.
Yeah.
It just changed just a little bit every time.
Yeah, I was like, you kind of get booked on your portfolio rather than your academic CV, you know?
Yeah. I think I've done a couple of I'll probably get into it, like ecom kind of things where you have to obviously send a CV in, otherwise you can't submit the application because it's like you have to have one kind of thing. But yeah, it's more website and Instagram these days.
Yeah. How do you find Instagram? Do you get booked through your social media, or is it more you pitch into clients? Or
I have gone through this weird transition recently. I have two boys. I've got a young one who's like 8 months now. So I kind of, if the work finds me, I take it. Mm. If I need that right now. I've not had the need for the work, which has been really nice, to kind of be putting myself out there as much, which has been really good. But that's just purely based on having a young child for the first few months. When it comes to, I pitch and social media, like I just came back from New York last week, and that was a complete kind of message on Instagram, and just been it's for a September issue of a magazine, which is published and stuff like that. And it was purely someone I've never worked with before. Somebody actually thought it was a complete scam at first, because it was, like broken English, where it's English, but it's not quite right. It was from a stylist. She was Italian. But at first, I had to do my own digging to make sure that this person was legit, because I get so many things that aren't legit and been burnt by it before. And I was like, I don't know if this is real at first, because the English was just like slightly broken and not wasn't making me feel too confident. Ended up being super cool and perfect. And September issue of a magazine with the potential of a cover. So I get it from everywhere: email, social, and me pitching.
Yeah. That's a nice mix, isn't it? Because like I get some from people recommending me, then I get some from my Instagram, and then I get the odd bit from LinkedIn. But
I've got some really good ones from LinkedIn, which is really weird. Like my main ones come from probably Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yeah, I've said it before, but I find LinkedIn a little bit hard for styling work.
I think so. I think also it's just kind of one of those kind of, I don't know. There's sometimes some freelance gigs on there. I think it's just keeping in contact with the right people. Just even if you just friend somebody or follow somebody, and it just kind of every now and then, like, I found you. It's an opportunity that I was like, it puts me in front of a different audience again. And it's one of those things that I saw you on LinkedIn via a friend, mutual friend, and it was just worth reaching out to.
Yeah, I think that's the power of the sharing. I've definitely found that with Emma shared my big like post looking for interviewees for the podcast, and then she's got a completely different network to what I have because she's in London. So that was quite nice to find like other people have come out of the woodwork who I don't know, but maybe she's connected with, but she's maybe worked with that person maybe like 5 years ago or something, So it is good for that. But I'm in Homeforth.
Okay. Fair.
Do you know in between Manchester and Leeds, just on the cusp of the Peak District?
I was going to say it must be Manchester, near Manchester based, because that's where I imagine you work the most.
Yeah, I'm between Manchester and Leeds.
I've done some jobs down there because I think the Adidas guys shoot a lot there, and I was trying to go to Manchester for. I've done a few gigs in Manchester. I can't remember what else there were. Yeah,
it seems it's quite fashion based in Manchester, and then quite food interiors based in Leeds. So it's quite a mix. Like, there's not as much interior stuff in Manchester. There is, but not like, I'd say fashion was more heavy really in Manchester. Yes. But yeah. So who have you worked with in your career that you haven't got an NDA that you can chat about?
So going back to my Falmouth kind of period of time, I had a guy, I was sat in a lecture and we always had guest lecturers and stuff in, and I was probably more likely to turn up to the guest lecturers than I was to my own kind of actual lecturers. And this guy came in, Ben Kelway, and he did this amazing kind of speech and stuff, and was really kind of unassuming, kind of quiet guy, studied at Falmouth. And he ended up being like this huge kind of creative, where he actually was David Sims' first assistant for a number of years and was still super involved with him. And we had like one-on-ones and things like that. And he kind of said, hey, I've got a job this weekend if you want to come and assist on. And this is going to be like my first ever assistant gig. I didn't really know who it was for or what it was going to be. And it was like one of those things where he's like, just be here, Bodmin Moor, 8 a.m. And you kind of just assist and be on set and stuff. It's my first ever assistant gig, and I turn up and it's like a David Sims shoot for American Vogue. Grace Coddington's the stylist, like the head stylist. We're shooting Arizona Muse, and Jeremy Irving, who's the lead actor from Spielberg's War Horse movie, and it's based around that movie. And this is like my first ever assistant gig, and I was like, this is insane. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm fireman carrying like Grace Coddington like through Bodmin Moor, because it's Bodmin Moor, it's knee deep mud, and Just the worst kind of environment to have any. Like we got like long wheelbase transit stuck. Like it was just a hellish location to be in. But this is like my baptism of fire, and I'd never done anything like that before. And it's just like having those contacts, like just having that. Then realised that I wasn't really into the kind of theory side of stuff. It's like, hey, why don't you just come and assist on set this weekend? I didn't realise Sims lived in Cornwall at the time, and so that was like my first endeavour into it, and it was like a cover vote. It was insane. It was the most insane kind of thing. And then that was like the ignition, like to everything that I did from that point, because I had Sims on the CV, and that was like just like this golden ticket. And then from that point, I just managed to be, hey, this is my experience. And then I just kind of spitballed into those things. And I ended up working at Spring Studios in London, which is a huge studio. Probably like the worst time of my life. Like you are just a glorified waiter that has to paint a cove every night. But that gave me all the contacts that I needed to be able to kind of like get onto sets with people that I want. And yeah, it was pretty crazy actually. So yeah, so I assisted Sims multiple times, and then from that I got picked up as a first assistant for a guy called Raphael Stalin. When I moved to New York, I've assisted kind of Annie Leibovitz. I was first assistant for Rankin. Yeah, Paolo Reversi, Nalaf Kanda. Just you can kind of I could name the loads, but yeah, I freelanced a lot. But my big stints, I did 4 years with Rankin, and I did about 3 years with Raphael Stalin, and then kind of freelanced in between, all those kind of things.
Oh, nice. I bet you've soaked up so much like information from those guys as well, and just like observed so many cool things.
Yeah, cool things and weird things and totally not legit like things.
Yeah. I mean, but isn't our jobs are really weird?
Yeah, super weird. Like I say that is just like he's an animal photographer, Tim Flack. He's a really big animal photographer, and I assisted him for a little while. I kind of wanted to step out of fashion for a little bit because fashion is crazy, and I just needed a break from it. And so I assisted this guy called Tim Flack, who's a great animal portrait photographer. But I've never worked with animals before. I never really kind of had that kind of skill set. And like there was this one thing, it was for like Barclays, like all this stuff's out, like it's years ago. And we were shooting like a portrait of a human, and then there were on the other side, it was like the equivalent of the bank account relating it to an animal for some reason. So there was like lions and foxes. So I shot like Aslan the lion, like the legit Aslan from the old movies. Like we were shooting that lion, and like foxes, which like the fox was like a dog. Like it was super weird. Like it would sit and you could pet it and stuff. And it was in a location in Oxford somewhere where it's specific movie animals, and they have like a specific studio set for these animals and stuff. But the weirdest one is that the lion just wants to kill you, right? So like it's in front of the camera and it knows its job. It's got the little kind of circus stand that it sits on, and when it's on the small one, it knows it's working. And we're literally like 6 foot away from it. Nothing in front. There's no cage, no nothing. Like we're just in a room with a lion. And then if it went onto its bigger kind of circus stand, it was like, that's his space. If you go near it, you're dead. Like it was crazy. Like I've never been so scared in all my life. And that was easy because like he would just look at you, and wherever you were, he would look at the camera. But then if we had a deer that we had to shoot, more cautious, and they're a flight animal. And to get it to look at the camera, I'd turn all the lights off, and I'd run around the back of the studio and clap. And then and it would look directly to wherever you clapped, because that's the nature of it. But at the same time, it would relieve its bowels every time. Like stuff like that. I was like, this is my job. It was so strange. So strange.
That's so weird. It's the lion sounded really controlled though.
It was controlled. I mean, you have the tamer there who basically just has a bamboo stick and would like tap on the floor and tap, but that was it. That was all that was between us and this lion kind of killing us. It was a dude and a bamboo stick. Like it was, but he was like, he would still swipe for the trainer. Like they're still wild. Like there's no way you'd kind of trust it. But yeah, it was a really crazy experience. And it was one of the weirdest days I've had.
Yeah, it sounds super weird. It's definitely a massive sidestep from fashion.
Yeah, yeah, it was super strange. But yeah, I've done like experience wise, there's a very broad spectrum of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing though, to have lots of different experiences to draw from. I feel like it makes us much more rounded individuals, like creatives as well, because you can go, oh yeah, I remember that part and I remember that part, and you can kind of pull it all together.
Yeah, and like when I was assisting in Spring Studios, like because you are just a glorified waiter that paints the cove at the end of the day, like there's like little tricks and tips that I'd be like, there's always call sheets left behind, so I'd like take the call sheet. I'd have like that after the day, and like at lunchtimes I'd have my little black book, which I still have now, and I'd like draw the sets, and so I could like work out how they lit that, and that was more valuable than my paycheck that I was getting, because again the pay was terrible. And so me just being in those environments and just being able to like make those contacts, and let's say the call sheet was left behind, like I'd just text her first and be like, hey, just let you know you didn't leave anything behind. My name's Rob. If you need anything, or you need anything from the studio that you've forgotten, just let me know. And like if they text back, it's like, cool, I've got them in for the next time that if they need an assistant or that kind of stuff. So that was super valuable, and I really enjoyed that time being in there.
Yeah, I've never been to Spring Studios, but I know of it. And like I think you're right with assistant as well. You have to take what's valuable and kind of observe.
Yeah, and people have like there's like managers and stuff as well. So like the studio manager, if there's somebody that I worked and got on really well with, like I'd be like, hey, next time they're in, can I be on their set, and just develop those relationships. And that got me. I actually just got, so when I graduated, I went straight into my first assistant role with Raf, because I assisted him multiple times, like in holidays and things like that. If I wasn't at uni, I'd be working at Spring Studios.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So how do you think that's changed your like perspective on, I don't really know what my question is here. Kind of like, do you think that the assisting helped your career get to where it is now quicker, or do you feel like it's been completely valuable, or do you think there's something you go back and be like, actually, I wouldn't go and assist and do that job again, or I wouldn't do that bit again, or I'd definitely do that like 10 times over?
It was almost like, because everything stemmed from that university, that conversation with Ben, and like I wouldn't have got that assistant gig first, and then I wouldn't have been like, hey, this is definitely what I want to do, so then let me pursue that in London somehow. And it was just by chance that I managed to get the job at Spring Studios. So it was one of the things, like I would never go back and do Spring Studios again. Like it was awful. Like it was like the hardest work I've ever done in my entire life. Like those guys that do it and go through that, like it is hard work. You're there before anybody else, like early hours, 3 a.m, setting stuff up. If the person the night before hasn't painted the cove correctly, the cyc wall, you have to redo that. And then you do your glorified waitering stuff, and then equipment. And then if you've got a nice kind of assistant to work with, then they might let you get involved on set, but the likelihood is not. And then you've got to repaint the cove again. And like they could have done anything to it. There could have been a set design on there. They could have been throwing black paint on the side of it, like the worst things possible. So I loved it at the time, but I definitely wouldn't go back and do it now. But it definitely was the best thing I did when it comes to contacts and experience, and being able to get hands-on with pro photo and things like that, and being able to use like low budget rental, like you get a better rate and all that kind of stuff whilst you're working there. So all those kind of things stem from it. I wouldn't say that I shouldn't have done uni and then should have just gone straight into that, because I went to uni. I didn't do a foundation degree. I went, and I'm a July kid, so I'm super young. So like I was 18 at university, and then I graduated barely 21. And so just kind of, I don't know what, I wouldn't have flipped one for the other. I don't think I'd have been any further on if I'd started at 18 at Spring. And I think I'd have been there a lot longer, because I was so young, and kind of, I still needed shaping a lot more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's, some people I know go into assisting, and then like a couple of friends of mine who are in their 30s still occasionally assist for people as well, because they're like, they can still learn. And I think it's a really good thing for people to experience as well, because you, like you say, you get to see people setting up, you get to see people doing their lighting, you get to see what's involved from a very like observational point, and you're not 100% always involved, but you've kind of just got to be there. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, for
Your
sure.
system. Yeah. So how was it? I'm begging to ask it. How was it assisting for Rankin? Did you like it?
I loved it and hated it at the same time. It's like he's a really hard-working photographer and the busiest photographer I've ever worked with, and it's one of those things where people just have this vision of Rankin of like he's got his 90s reputation and then Dazed and Confused and that kind of vibe that he has, a very specific kind of visual that he's really famous for. But there's loads of stuff he shoots that you wouldn't know was Rankin. And he has 16 to 20 assistants because that's how much he works. Like you divide it into 2, maybe even 3 teams because there's 3 shoots for the day. And that could be a commercial, something that's in for his personal magazine of Hunger, and then there's something that's a celebrity portrait for a biography in the evening, and you only have like 20 minutes with. Like, it was really hard work, but was also the most rewarding because he gave me my first ever publication. He gave me my first ever like really high welt because I was first, and so it meant that if he didn't want to shoot something but still wanted it within the Rankin kind of group of companies, he'd let one of the assistants shoot it, and so I'd be the first one. So like I got my first kind of good commercial gig through that, and all those things obviously spitball into something else. So it was super hard work. I got to travel a lot. I actually didn't rent anywhere in London at the time because I was working so much that I was either at the studio, at my girlfriend's house, or sleeping in the equipment room on a mattress. And it was like one of those things where I think there was like over a period of time, there maybe was like six months where I had like 3 days off, like including weekends. Like, and it was just rolling, and you were always just into the next thing.
Whoa, that's intense.
But, like, I think Rankin's brilliant. I genuinely do. Like, I'm not going to say that it was easy work and he wasn't hard to work for sometimes because it's so busy. And I just, I don't have a bad word to say about it. You get out what you put in, and I worked really, really fucking hard at it. And I got my first stuff, and then we're still like, I'm still part of that family. Like, even though I've not worked there for 10 plus years, they had like an anniversary issue come out, and I just got this email out of the blue, and they were like, hey, I don't know if you want to be involved or not, but do you want to shoot for the anniversary issue? Let us know. And I got another publication in Hunger magazine just purely because they wanted people that were part of that Rankin family still involved with it. So it was one of those things where it's like, I'm super glad I did it. And I think Rankin gets the worst rap because secretly everybody kind of wants to be in there. And the guys, again, like the assistants that we were at the time when we were all the same there, I'm still in contact with loads of those guys, which are still all photographers and doing their things and things like that. So I really enjoyed my time there, but it was super hard work.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you've like got so many contacts and stuff out of it. And that's really nice that they just message you and were like, oh, do you want to have a feature? And like, that's cool that you're still part of the family.
Like, the same. Like, the thing about that was that I'm in Austin. And it's whilst I was in Austin, they reached out like last year, and it was like, there's no one in there that's the same team. So somebody, Rankin, has gone, hey, let's contact Rob, and that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't realize he did quite so much like other stuff as well. Obviously, I know about his fashion stuff, Hunger magazine, and some other bits, but I didn't realize he did lots of. I knew he was busy, obviously, because he is who he is.
Like Gillette, Dove, makeup campaigns, like high fashion brands. Like, there's so many like commercials that, and he does a lot of firsts as well. Like when it comes to kind of diversity and things like that. So when it came to like the Dove, it was like they did campaigns with people of different denominations or like disabilities and getting them in front of the camera for these massive campaigns. And like Dove was one of the really big ones. And so he's actually like, as much as like he's seen as this hard-nosed guy, like he's one of the people that gets first for a lot of companies and for a lot of people as well. It was super cool. And he touches on subjects where there's things where like making death beautiful and did a whole book on like kind of cancer and things like that, and giving these people like that day in the studio where they feel beautiful, but like there was people before the book even published that they'd passed away. It was one of those things where they like the experiences that he gave to certain people was like amazing to be around.
Yeah, I think it seems really like probably it's the more wholesome side that isn't often portrayed in the media, or because people just want a little bit of gossip or a little bit of like, they want the tea, don't they? They don't want all the wholesome stuff. But actually, like, that's really cool that he's because I had no idea that he'd been like the first one with the Dove campaign and getting lots of diversity through it and stuff. That's really cool.
I think he's I think it's a great experience, and I think he's a fantastic photographer for the kind of what he does and what he's made for himself. And I mean, to have a studio that's yours and offices, and you employ 30 to 60 people full time. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's just insane that he's still able to shoot and isn't like, oh God, I need to get off the tools because I've got so much going on.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's one of those things where I used to think, so he used to do this thing where he uses a big medium format camera, and there'd be an assistant holding the camera strap, and you'd be this moving tripod for him. Like, you'd take 90% of the weight of the camera, and you'd kind of just be pulled around whilst he was shooting. And I was like, that's ridiculous. That's the most kind of like diva thing you can have, is like just this human tripod basically like wheeling around. And actually now I shoot with a medium format camera, and it's freaking heavy, and I'm like, my wrist hurts after a day of shooting, and I'm like, I now totally get it. I 100% understand like why, because the amount he shoots, and it's every day, that your arm would fall off. Like, and now I understand it. But at the time I was like, you're just being a diva. But actually now it's been legit. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's slightly different to him calling you over to move his chair an inch over, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's at least it's for a proper reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so cool. You've had that experience as well. It sounds like you've had some really cool like assistant experiences.
It's one of those things, like I've done Z list all the way through to kind of like A list, and depending on what your main interest is, like, so people always ask me like, what's the most kind of the cool set or the famous person you've met on set, and that's a really kind of difficult question to answer, because like I love my music, and so like for me, like I was on set with Robert Plant for Q Magazine, and like it was one of those things where I couldn't talk, like I was just so overwhelmed with being on set with that dude. But then like I met Tom Brady because we shot Giselle for Vogue. I had no idea he was. Like, Tom Brady's nobody in the UK really, and he's the biggest American football player that's ever existed. And I was having just this low-key, genuine conversation with him because I just thought he was somebody on set, not realizing who he was. And so it just depends on, like, if I say I've met Tom Brady over here, that's insane, but you might not even know who that is. And so it's like one of those things that, depending on where your interest lies, and I've done like crazy sets, and I've done stuff for like bingo adverts. Like it really depends on what you class.
Yeah, we're similar in that sense. So I had a shoot, I can talk about it now, but it was a shoot for Manchester United a few years back, and one of the guys, I think it's Juan Mata, and he came out. He was just like, I just had to make sure he was wearing the right outfits or whatever. And he just genuinely, of all the footballers that we had, he was the most politest. He looked all of us in the eye, chatted for like 5 minutes, gave us time, was like, how you doing? Where you from? Like, giving you all this time. And then there's other footballers that I won't mention their names that were just so fucking rude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at the end of the day, I couldn't give a shit about football.
Yeah.
To me, they're just people that have just got a dress.
Well, I mean,
but like,
so like, I love Mata. He's a great person, but I've also shot people from United, and there's people that definitely wanted to make me change my allegiance at certain points.
Yeah, I can feel you. I had one footballer wipe their nose along the clothes that we were about to shoot.
Nice. That's wild.
It's like, cheers, mate. Now I've got to wipe that off and touch your bogies.
That's disgusting.
No. Yeah. I mean, I could have probably sold that baby wipe for like hundreds of but at the time I was just like, oh, for God's sake, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just ask me for a tissue, hun. But it's funny how you like. I told my other half's friend about like styling some footballers, and he's well into his football. And he was like, "Holy shit, you've styled these people!" I'm like, literally, they're people.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done a couple of football gigs, and it's like, one, you get zero amount of time to be able to shoot it, and then two, it's whether they actually turned up or not. Because like they're not actually. I was shooting. What did I shoot? I shot a bunch for the World Cup for Adidas. So any of the German footballers that won the World Cup that played in the Premier League were supposed to come and be in the studio and get the photographs taken in some Adidas kit. And like half of them didn't turn up. So we had it obviously to schedule, and so it was super quiet. And then some did, but like they just do what they want anyway. Like
yeah,
it's just one of those days. If you're shooting a football thing, anything can happen, and they might not even turn up.
Yeah, so. And I think like some of them were given like an allotted time and then showed up like an hour and a half later. They're just like whatever, because it's for them it's promotional stuff, right? For us it's like our day job, and for them it's like an extracurricular activity.
yeah, that's it.
But they're just so funny. So can I ask? We did cover this a little bit before we press record, but what made you move to Texas?
So we live in Surrey, and to be fully clear, like I still own my house back home, so I have a house still in Surrey. And my wife works for Dell, and she was out here on business, and she was out here, and she rang me a couple of times in the morning, like really early, and there was basically a job opening, and they were like, "It's yours if you want it," but it is Austin, Texas based, and it was at the time, it just hit at the right time for us. We needed a life change, and I'm super open about it because it's just not talked about enough. Like we had a couple of miscarriages, and we were trying for kids for a number of years, and it just wasn't working for us, and we were just kind of at a really low point and just needed that change. And so we're like, let's do it. And the plan was at first, like it was like, let's just go and do it for 2 years and go back home. But we just wanted to do it and travel America and do all those things. And then as life is, like it throws different curveballs at you. So we moved October 19, and couldn't work out why there's no Airbnbs. And we moved the weekend of ACL Festival, which is like one of the biggest festivals in America. And so we got like the last Airbnb, like nowhere near where we wanted to be. And then a week later, we fell pregnant. And then COVID happened, literally, obviously, the 2020. So the idea of like renting somewhere cheap, buying like an RV and traveling America and just doing all this cool stuff whilst we're here went completely out the window. And obviously just with what we'd had experience-wise and the miscarriage back home and this uncertainty of like COVID at the time, like we didn't leave the house for 9 months. Like it was wild. And like Texas being Texas, like some people don't think it existed and all that kind of stuff. Like it was super wild to kind of be around and experience like the red and the blue side of America, like in one city. Like Austin's like this, they call it blueberry and tomato soup. And it's like you've got this kind of super kind of liberal kind of Austin, but you literally leave Austin and it becomes very Republican very quickly. And so to experience that during COVID was quite wild. But yeah, all these grand plans of like traveling and stuff went completely out the window. But happy to say that I now have two beautiful boys. Ezra just turned 3 yesterday, actually. And I have Atlas now, who's 8 months old.
Oh.
And they're both 10. It's crazy.
Amazing. So are they going to have dual passports?
Yeah, got both of them. They're good to go.
Oh, insane.
Yeah. I'd have killed for that. So yeah.
Oh, that's insane. What a journey.
Yeah.
And like, I think you're right. It's not many people chat about fertility. And I can't imagine how hard that was for you guys. Like just
it was super hard, and like especially for just obviously wanting at the time. But it was amazing. But what was amazing and coming out of that was the fact that we would say, like, once we were comfortable with it, like ourselves, like, oh, we had miscarriage and this is why Kirsty didn't turn up to this event or whatever it was. And And then you'd say it, and then it'd be like, oh, we had the same thing. Like, we had miscarriages. Like, and there's so many people that, like, literally within, like, best friends that wouldn't tell you about it because of that stigma about it. And actually, best friends that we didn't know had the exact same experience. And having that kind of, it was amazing. Like, it was like just domino effect, and you just talk about it. And I literally am so open about it now when it comes to that, because I want people to know that they're not the only people in that same boat. And I don't know, maybe it's the water that changed it over here. I don't know. But so I think we needed that change for it to get out of that kind of cycle.
Yeah. And I think it's so, it's something I've spoken to actually a photographer this week that I was working with. Women's health isn't really kind of researched enough. It's not really, some parts aren't known as much. And like, until it's kind of also, like you say, with the miscarriage, I feel like a lot of people still have a bit of like feeling of maybe shame about it, or like mixed feelings about it. And actually, like you say, I know a few people have had miscarriages, and I feel like the more we talk about it, the more open we can all be, the better result we're all going to get in the end anyway, because you're actually all going to be able to go, oh, well, mine was like this and mine was like this. And like, is there a way, did you ask your doctor for this? Did you, it opens up paths that you don't know are there until you speak to somebody about it, someone who's been through the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. But it's just what opened the door to us, and that's why we're here. And we're 4 years into our 2-year plan. So what goes from there? Yeah.
So would you still travel America with the kids as well?
With a dog as well, like we want to, but obviously work gets involved in the way, and also you get, like, my wife's full time, and so you don't get as much free time in the US when it comes to kind of holidays and stuff like that. The dream is to keep doing it, but daycare is crazy expensive, and traveling with little ones, we went home with just my oldest, and that was traumatic. That was a lot. But we're trying. We're going to do our first kind of holidays with both of them soon this summer, kind of end of the summer when it gets a little bit less hot. But it's just logistics. I used to think I was so busy before kids, and then I realized I had a lot of time when I had my first one. And then I was like, and then I don't know what I did with all the other time when I had my second one. Like, I had so much free time before that I'm now like, I just don't know what I did in my life before kids. I honestly don't. It's eye-opening having kids. It's insane. And I love it. Absolutely love it. But yeah, I don't know what I did before them with all the time I had. It's wild. It is wild.
I can only relate in the naughty auntie. I'm naughty auntie.
Yeah.
And
just loads of Red Bull and then give them back.
Yeah. You'll probably shoot daggers at me, but I bought my friend's 3-year-old a stuffed unicorn that was bigger than the dog for her birthday.
Nice.
And was just like, bye.
Yeah. It's with we had his birthday yesterday, and he's got like a rocket ship, and he wanted to take it to bed. And it's an enormous rocket ship. It's like half the size of him, and just things like that. And it's great to see their face when they get it, but then the meltdown once he's like, you can't have it to go to bed with. You cannot sleep with this in bed. Like, this is ridiculous. So yeah, but yeah, that's the. I love them both dearly, but I just don't know what I did with my time before them.
Yeah, it's that friends are saying the same. And we had my nephew over last weekend actually, and with my sister and her husband, and we don't see him that often, and he's just turned 2, so we don't see the incremental like need for them to get, they're all buzzing around, aren't they, like pinging off the walls. Then all of a sudden it slammed us in the face, and he's like cycling around the kitchen island on his balance bike, and he's like drawing everywhere. Then he's doing something else, and I'm like, does your kid sit down or just pinging?
But also that's because the parents are at your place, and it's like, cool, they're for you to deal with. And this is actually, we're on holiday for this like 2 hours whilst we're at your house. Like that's basically.
And then I got Play-Doh out, and my sister was like, "No, why have you done that?"
Yeah, he got like this like sand Play-Doh, and it went straight into a cupboard. I was like, no.
You can play with that for 5 minutes, and then it's going. Yeah, I did hide the paints. I bought paints, and then I was like, I'm actually going to hide these. Like,
yeah. Thankfully, Ezra was pretty good. He hasn't done too much drawing on walls. I think, I don't think he has. He's been pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're like, again, it's just letting them be creative, isn't it? And just kind of knowing their boundaries of like, just don't draw on the floor.
Yeah, he was so excited. My parents got him a little kid's digital camera, and he's been loving that and just taking pictures of everything. But it's like really funny because it's like he sees me with like using my camera, which still has a viewfinder, whereas his one, it's just like an LCD screen on the back, but he puts it up to his like blinding himself on the LCD, like right up to his eye, because that's what he sees me doing, whereas he could just hold it away kind of thing. Yeah, he loves it. He absolutely loves it.
Oh, it's so cute. So do you take a lot of pictures of your kids as well while you're like...
Yeah, like I definitely have got better at it, and actually made a conscious effort, like maybe after Ezra was like being one, because the worst thing is iPhones, like, because you just take so many photos on like your phone's the closest thing to you. But I bought this like a dedicated family camera for us to like just have always like in the house on a shelf for us to be able to take like much nicer like family photos. But at the same time, like I'm always the one taking the photos, so I'm never in them. And so like one of my friends here, like I just like, hey, can you just do like a family photo session? And the nice thing was, it's not like one of those horrible cheesy ones. Like he's a fashion photographer, so do like just super nice fashion-esque family photos, like black and white, real nice lighting, like not awful photography magazine lighting family photos. Yeah. Like, no. But yeah, like we had those, and I'm in those photos, and they're some of the nicest ones, and I didn't actually even take them just purely because I'm in them, and that was super nice. But yeah, I take a lot of the kids and things like that.
Yeah, I struggle to get my camera out. I kind of forget. I'm like same as you. I just pick up my phone and I'm just like take a load of pictures. When actually it's quite nice to just take a moment to frame the picture you want and just take that time.
Yeah,
and just
slow
it down.
My phone, like she's the first one to be like, put the phone down, like it's family time kind of thing. Because I'm the worst person for taking a photo and then being on Instagram and 0.3 seconds later, just purely for scrolling sake, and something that I'm trying to work on, which is another reason why we have like a camera dedicated to it, so it is not on the phone whilst we're in family time.
Yeah, I think it's hard when you're self-employed to turn off when your phone is linked to your social stuff, like your Instagram, and then that's also linked to your work, and then you've got your email, and then everything else. It's really hard. I find it really hard.
I can have a conversation with the same person over 5 different formats of communication. It's nuts.
Yeah. It's mad. But I think it's a blessing and a curse of being self-employed, right?
Yeah, it is that. Yeah, for sure.
And like putting those like little boundaries in. I've definitely been better at it, probably since COVID, but like before I'd just be like on my phone, just be like, oh my God, I have to answer that. And like, do you know what? No one's going to look at their phone past 6 p.m. and like at work. So that email doesn't really matter until like 9 o'clock the following morning.
Unless it's deadline day and you really need to get something done, and you know that email's coming in. Anything else in there is not worth it until the morning.
Yeah, exactly. It's my other half like pecks my head a little bit about it, because as well, I don't know if you do this, but I'm looking on Instagram because I'm like, oh, that's a cool photographer, oh, that's a cool shot, oh, that's really inspiring, oh, that interiors looks really cool, and you constantly get an inspiration.
Yeah, the save button is my favorite button on that, because I just have folders and folders of stuff, and like it's also because I'm always around and I have the kids or whatever, and like I don't get to sit down unless it's past 7 p.m. and I'm absolutely exhausted, or well, I'd say in the morning, but they're up at 5 a.m. so I don't even have time then. So it's like one of those things where like if I do have like want to think of ideas and stuff, rather than being on Pinterest and stuff that takes time to actually like scroll through, like and like specifically search. Like on Instagram, if you're just following people that you're interested in, you always get all that stuff, and it's just a lot easier to just be able to save that stuff. But I do need to disconnect from it a lot more.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I feel like my wife might be listening to me, so I need to put it out there.
But I'm the same though, and I think whenever I chat to other creatives, they're the same. They're on Pinterest or they're on like Instagram, or they're just looking for the next. I guess you're kind of ingrained in you to look for the next trend if you're on a fashion shoot or you're on an interior shoot, and you kind of just got to keep up with it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so. Do you shoot a lot of fashion still now, or are you what are you shooting in Texas?
So Texas, not being the center of fashion, is obviously not a huge amount, but there is gigs here, and there's a load of mother agents which I do a lot of testing for and things like that. So there's like in these smaller kind of, I say smaller, Texas is enormous, but like where it's not a hub of fashion, there's obviously all the things that link to those. So all the mother agents, there's some really big ones, no matter where you are, kind of in each state. So I shoot a lot for those kind of guys. And there's obviously the little jobs that you get, but during COVID it was insane because, I mean, I know you don't video, but in a commas, like COVID didn't exist in a lot of Texas, right? And it was the only place that kind of ignored a lot of stuff, which in my opinion is completely wrong. However, a lot of the work came here because people still needed to shoot. And so like, I'm pretty sure I was one of the first photographers to shoot for Lululemon that wasn't their in-house photographer. And it's purely because Texas was open and Canada wasn't, and their usual shoot places weren't. And so like, it was really weird for them because they'd never done it before. And I had so many people, like after every look, we had to go on like a conference call and like evaluate and all that kind of stuff. And so like being in Texas, I've actually had some of my biggest work here purely because it was open and stuff's coming here because tech's coming here, like Tesla, Apple, all the big tech ones are here. And fashion's coming here with the music festivals and things like that. So I shot like here. I've shot for Eastpak, like multiple campaigns for Eastpak backpacks, Lululemon, Levi's, like all those kind of things were shot here. And I probably wouldn't have got that if I wasn't located here. So that was kind of really cool. But my main gig, as much as like, I think it's one of those things where people forget and they see all the stuff that you see on my website or the Instagram, like, if I make some money off of that, I'll be chuffed. But actually, I shoot for a bunch of companies here, like Still Life Furniture, room sets, things like that. That's where my money's made. And I do a lot of stuff there. And I think people get this kind of warped view. And again, like I tell people about it all the time. And yes, I advertise myself as a fashion photographer and commercial photographer, but my money's made I shoot for like West Elm, like this company here, which make furniture for West Elm, Pottery Barn, all these kind of fancy furniture brands. And I do a lot of work with those guys and room sets and things like that, Still Life stuff.
Yeah, I think somebody said to me, I think it was a junior like in-house stylist, and they were like, "Oh, what's freelancing like?" And I'm like, "You style a lot of ecom."
Yeah,
it's a lot of ecom.
Yeah, it's
and
not Vogue every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we can all dream, but it's definitely like your bread and butter's ecom.
Yeah. I mean, so when I was in London, I was a photographer at Netta Porter, Mr. Porter, and I shot ecom there, which was like a 3-4 day a week gig, and that paid everything bill. That was life, and anything on top of that was great.
Yeah, I think that's it, and like it's carving the time out to be creative as well, because ecom is boring.
It's super easy to get sucked into that and then just be comfortable and not do creative outlet stuff, which is, to be fair with those guys, it was great because you got a rolling day off 2 weeks. So for like, it was like on a 2-week cycle. So you would get Monday off for 2 weeks, then you'd get Tuesday off for 2 weeks. It would roll through the week. And so at some point you would get a Friday and a Monday over the weekend, which was great. And you could plan like bigger kind of your own testing and stuff like that. And it was super important. But also it meant in that kind of place with the fashion, because you're working with stylists and makeup artists all the time, it was super easy to collaborate within that environment as well. So I think like the ongoing story of this podcast is like, I'm really into making sure my connections stay there and kind of having those contacts so like I still work with people from Net-a-Porter and they have an office in New York. So I'm always able to reach out that side and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I think connections really are important. And I think you've kind of got to stay in touch with the people that you really enjoy working with as well, because it's easy to forget like that you worked with a makeup artist like 2 years ago that you really like working with, because then you both go off and get really busy and, you know, off just living normal life. And actually it's nice to collaborate with those people every so often.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm somebody that works with potentially the same people on a regular like basis, like creatively, if you kind of work and have that understanding of each other. I'm somebody that definitely appreciates those connections.
Yeah, and I think when you get in your vibe as well, like there's a couple of photographers that I work with that we can just chat as though we're chatting now,
Mm-hmm.
and ideas will just come and we'll just be like, oh yeah, we'll just try that. And it's like once you're on that same wavelength with somebody else and you're in that zone and you're in that team together, they're the connections you need to really like keep on top of as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you done any weird, other than your lions and things like that, is there any other fashion shoots that you've been like, what on earth am I doing here, other than Bodmin Moor?
It's so one of those things that you put yourself into these situations where, both the stories I think of is like a Rankin. So we did Germany's Next Top Model. He's super tight with Heidi, and so she's a judge on Germany's Next Top Model. And there's this shoot where, like, the guys and girls that go on those shows, like, you have to be really good to be able to eventually become a model. And like, they're like a reality TV show more than anything else. And we flew out to Dubai and had a great kind of couple of days, but we were hanging these girls that aren't technically models right now. They're just normal people aspiring to be models. And there's a race course which only gets like used twice a year in Dubai, and it's a camel racing course. Like, and it's enormous. And like the head of Dubai, I don't know what the right term is, like, has its own private road to that. No one else can drive on that road apart from him. And anyway, we're doing this shoot, and we've built this scaffolding, and we're hanging like people off the side of it. Like, we're hanging these girls off the roof of this race course, and I'm just like, it's hilarious because we've been videoed. Like, it's for a TV show as well, so we're being videoed ourselves, and I'm just watching these poor girls in absolute terror, like being hung off the side of it like a sheer drop. I was like, this is nuts, absolutely insane. But it was good fun at the same time. But at the same time, it's like one of the things like, how do we get into this situation? Who thought this was a great idea? And another one, it was like, I think it was for Paco Rabanne, and again within the Rankin studio, and it was a full mirrored set, and we were shooting through a hole, like the models on the inside. Actually, it was Coco Rocha, and it was shooting for a hole inside this mirror, but we had to get light in there, and so I'm dressed in a complete black morph suit, holding a light, because that means that the mirrors can't see me. Basically, like, you basically become invisible in this black morph suit inside mirrors, and so I'm just in there, like in the tiny space. I'm talking it's like 2 foot by 2 foot with Coco Rocha, and I'm just like trying to be like in this this mirrored prism kind of thing. Out of it. I'm just walking around like in a morph suit all day, and I was like, "This is what I do for a living." Like, and obviously, you're in a morph suit, so you're automatically just a little bit more weird because you can just lunge and stuff in these things, and that's what your body tells you to do when you're in a morph suit. So you just it was wild.
That sounds insane, trying to squish into a set.
Yeah. There's loads of stuff like that where it's just like, that's what I did today. I got paid to do that, and I had a great time.
Yeah. It's our job's so weird, weird.
Yeah, and what's weird is like, so like with Heidi, like we were on like first name terms for like, and still are, like, weirdly, like it's this like crazy ass famous super like people that you're actually just friends with, and it's normal. And then you have to kind of pinch yourself at the moment. It's like, I'm having a normal conversation with these people. And that's super cool at the same time. And it's like you say, when you have those conversations with the footballers with your friends, like, it doesn't feel weird anymore because it's just every day. And it's just nice, like those kind of things. But yeah, I do have to pinch myself every now and then.
Yeah, I feel you. And you just kind of, and then you tell somebody else that story and they're like, Whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I caught. Do you remember? Do you remember when Cheryl Cole fainted from malaria?
Yes.
I caught her in Spring Studios. So the shoot we were shooting her for Vogue, and she fainted. And I dropped a Pro Photo Light and caught her, and then she just slept on the sofa for like 6 hours. And we were just like, "Are we doing this shoot or not?" And then it came out like because nobody knew what was going on, whether she was like ill or whatever at the same time. But yeah, when that story broke, like we were the photo studio where it all happened in, like stuff like that. Like I'm just trying to think of things that have happened in studios where it's like, but yeah, things like that.
It's just that's mad. And a Pro Photo Light is like quite an
Two
expensive
grand
bit of
worth of
kit to
kit,
be
yeah.
dropping. Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, like Cheryl Cole, 2 grand light,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get it. But like, that's still a bit expensive bit of kit. Jeez.
yeah, yeah. So it's just things like that. I think weird things happen in photography.
Yeah. And also, don't you find that studios are a little bit weird as well?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I had like spring, like I'd just be in the men's toilets, or whatever, and then like I'd be having a pee next to Jimmy Carr, like and stuff like that. It's just weird.
yeah, they're so studios are so weird. I've tried to explain to my other half like how silly studios are sometimes as well.
I remember one. I was in Milk in LA, and we are shooting for Gap Kids, and I'm like, I can smell weed. Like there is weed, and we're shooting Gap Kids, and I'm like, I don't think it's the kids. It could be a parent, but it was strong, like crazy strong. And we finished our set, and in the foyer of like Milk Studios is a ping pong table, and we're just out there relaxing afterwards, like waiting for equipment to be picked up and all that kind of stuff. And so we're just playing ping pong. And the next thing, the studio next was doors opened, and it was like dry ice. It was like the doors opened, this plume of smoke came out, and the next thing it's Snoop Dogg and his entourage, and I was like, that's why. That explains everything. And then the best thing was because we were out there and just playing and stuff. Like they obviously just get involved, and so like they then just hang out for like 2 hours, and we all just play table tennis with Snoop Dogg and the whole of his team. Like it was surreal, like surreal stuff.
That's so surreal. I bet you wish you'd had like a GoPro just filming
Yeah,
your chest.
I'm sure I've made it much more dramatic in my head from that moment, but it definitely felt like just like dry ice and just like.
I've just got the best like visual of him just like coming out, just like nice and chilled, great shoe.
And all the Gap kids went home and had the best night's sleep of their life. It was great.
Or their parents were like, "Why are the kids so subdued after the show?"
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, stuff like that.
Oh, it's so fun. Honestly, it's such a weird industry. Such a weird industry. So I've got one final question for you. And it's quite a biggie, and you can answer it in whichever way you see fit. But what's your inspiration?
Just the people I meet. It's the same thing I've always kind of said, like having, like being around other creative people, but also like even my wife and kids and stuff like that. Like if I can draw inspiration from anywhere, like I just always just love talking to people, and I'm a massive extrovert. And my wife's the opposite to that. She's a super introvert, and so having her to like balance me out, which is super nice. But yeah, just having those contacts and just being able to like, I'd much rather, like when it comes to like job inspiration and things like that, as much as I love scrolling, like I collect the magazines and things like that, and will happily go through decades of magazines, like looking for stuff and being in that world. Like I remember where an image is and something I really liked, and I'll be able to try and find that in a 1998 Harper's or something like that. Like I'm happy to go through that, but also like photographers are always, like photographers are always either first or second on the call sheet, and it's usually whoever's bigger between the model, photographer, or sometimes maybe the stylist might be top. But I also hate being that kind of top person on the call sheet, because when I'm working, it's definitely collaborative effort, and it might be somebody else's complete idea, but they just love how you shoot, and being able to collaborate on that kind of level is something that I really kind of try and take pride in, and not to be a diva photographer, if that makes sense, and just kind of be, because I think like there's a lot of brands out there that use a lot of younger photographers that are super fashionable at the moment, and they've got this like look, and they think they've made it, and they're super arrogant about it, and then that goes out of fashion, and then they don't shoot anymore. And so I think it's kind of making sure that you're being collaborative and getting that inspiration from everybody around you, and not just being stuck in something that you think works, which it might do right now, but fashion changes, and it comes around. Like what was famous in 2000 came around last year, and things like that. And so I just find, just staying in touch with the right people and being super humble, and just kind of taking it as it comes. I'm pretty chilled out about when it comes to jobs and things like that. I'm not putting my eggs in one basket kind of thing, and counting on those things. I think that's what freelance probably taught me the most. But inspiration is just from the contacts and just the people that I want in my circles.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a nice answer. That's so nice. Because I think it comes from lots of different places, and everybody who I've asked this question has had a completely different answer, and I'm really enjoying listening to what inspires everybody.
Yeah. I think,
nice.
Just the people I surround myself with, and like, I think one of the things I always thought when I was at school or whatever, and people were like, you just need to shoot. You just need to always be shooting. And I took that literally as like almost working. And I think it took me a long time to realize that actually didn't mean that. I mean, just taking a camera out and going for a walk and shooting those things. And for instance, like I got the Eastpak campaign that came through like a couple of weeks prior. I did a test for a model. His name was Cole, and he's a big skateboarder. I had a cool vibe about him and shot him in the kind of studio environment, but I wanted just to be part of that community. So I went out and just photographed him skateboarding in his local skate park. Kind of natural light, nothing serious, just me and my camera, and I just got in the way of people basically, and just shot some really cool kind of lifestyle kind of reportage shots, and I put it up on my Instagram, and that's how I got my Eastpak gig, because they loved those images. Not anything that I'd shot commercially before or reached out to. It's purely something I did from a personal level, that just out and about walking around with my camera. And so I think it's like having those connections and just taking opportunities when you can. But all my stuff is always from somebody that I kind of have made a relationship with. Yeah.
I think it's super important on a human level as well, to not lose this connection that actually makes us all tick. And technology is great, but we still need to have that like human connection too, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. Wow, thanks so much for chatting to me, Rob. It's been great.
I've been really enjoyed the Yorkshire accent. It's so nice to hear it.
I'm so glad that you think I've got a bit of Yorkshire accent. That's good. It beats the Fen accent where it's all ace and bakes and all that.
Yeah.
So, although
accent drawl here, so it's take it or leave it.
Well, thanks so much for chatting to me today, and I've really enjoyed it, and I've loved hearing all your Snoop Dogg stories and all these other crazy stories, and it's just been great to chat to you.
I appreciate it. It's been really great. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, follow and share, as it really helps this little podcast out. And if you have found value in the podcast and you have the means to, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. This will help keep the podcast going. Join me next week for another fantastic guest. Bye!